Greetings, Butterfly Tribe, and welcome back to the Way You See Me Heart Healing Ministry. Today I'm going to resume with the segment on healing from childhood trauma. This will be age 15. It will conclude the summer leading up to my 11th grade or my junior year in high school. So I'm going to open up with a scripture, Jeremiah 29:11. It is written, "For I know the plans I am planning for you, declares YAHUAH, plans of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and an expectancy. Then you shall call on me and shall come and pray to me, and I shall listen to you, and you shall seek me and shall find me when you search for me with all your heart. And I shall be found by you, declares YAHUAH, and I shall turn back your captivity and shall gather you from all the nations and from all the places where I have driven you, declares YAHUAH, and I shall bring you back to the place from which I have exiled you, because you have said, YAHUAH has raised up prophets for us in Babel." May YAHUAH add a blessing to the readers, hearers, and doers of his set apart word. So I left off talking about how now me being pregnant is known. I'm 15 years old. It is the summer before my junior year. At some point, the father of my child and I started hanging out again during that summer. And the only reason I remember this is because I know that he had taken me to see the movie Poetic Justice. And as I was searching for names for our child, that movie came to mind, and it was two names that I came up with. And I'll share her name when we get to that point. But I do know that we began hanging out again in that manner, just going different places together. So here we are, the start of my junior year, August of 1993. August 1993. I had begun to be a little depressed because I somehow felt like I was being punished for trying to do what was right. And I lost a lot of things that I held dear or valuable that had become a part of me. And one of those things was the youth group that I was in. Because I was pregnant, I could no longer participate in the youth activities at our church. And I kind of felt like I didn't belong. A lot of my church hurt begins there, because at this age I had seen a lot of different things transpire in the church setting, and I felt like I was dealing with hypocritical people whom I had watched fall, and although they got back up, they had been forgiven, and it was like nothing ever happened. But in my situation, all those things were taken from me. It was like I had no place. I was no longer considered a youth, and I definitely wasn't considered a woman. So there was no place that I fit into the church agenda anymore. And I was frowned upon, and of course talked about by people that I thought cared about me, honestly. that had my best interests at heart, but it was more so worried about what other people thought. So it was like I was shunned in a sense. The other thing I lost was during that summer, I would constantly go to our volleyball practices just to have that sense of belonging. And at one point, I remember my coach telling me in so many words, not, you know, that I didn't have to come, that it almost felt like I wasn't welcome there. So I stopped going to the practices and just kind of was in my own little world, because remember, all the people that I was close to, my best friend, the few young ladies that I did hang out with, they were in season, so they were busy. So a lot of time was spent by myself. So when we started that school year in August, I went through what I would call probably my first bout of depression. And I didn't feel like I belonged. And again, like I said, I felt like I was being punished. And at some point, I remember saying that I would just make it easier on everyone else. Because remember, they said it would be easier on me had I just chosen to do what they recommended. And because I choose to stand firm that I would not do that, I felt like I was being punished. So at some point, I began having insomnia, but I still had to go to school. So I remember discussing that with my doctor, and he gave me medication to help with the insomnia so that I would be rested to go to school. And then, you know, it just, 6-7 months pregnant now and struggling just to keep up with school. Up and down the stairs at school, walking with the books. I was struggling. So one day, I felt like this cloud of darkness just overtook me. Like there was no more life, no more light, and no more hope. Probably the first time in life, even through all the trials and struggles, even watching my mother struggle with her addiction, even the loneliness I sometimes felt, this probably was the darkest cloud that I've ever faced. And it just literally dropped, it came and just sat over my life. And I remember feeling so hopeless that I said, I'm gonna make it easier for everybody. And I planned my escape. I'm not gonna go into details about what I did, because I don't ever want to influence or give a seed of idea to anyone in this position. But I did carry out the plan that I conjured up. I did not want help. I was not seeking attention. I wanted it all to end. And so I didn't write a note. I didn't speak of this with anyone. The day that I did it, I remember walking next door to my great aunt's house. I think my grandmother had asked me to go there for something, and I knocked on her door, and when she opened the door, I think I collapsed on her steps, like I fell on her steps. And she called my grandparents' house and told them to tell my mom she needed to come see about me. Now you would have to understand, I'll explain it all. So my mom comes next door, and my mom was a certified nursing assistant in my childhood before she stopped working. So she checked my blood pressure there, And I felt lifeless, but again, no one knew what was going on. So when she checked my blood pressure, I just remember hearing her panic, and she was like, call 911, call 911. And she called, and, you know, they gave her the phone, and she was like, you need to get here. My child is dying. Her blood pressure is 70/30. And I don't know what they told her, but I'm assuming they told her that was impossible. And she was like, I know it's impossible, and I know what I'm doing. My child is dying. Get here now. And that's all I remember. And I woke up the next day in the hospital. At this point, this is September. This is a month before my due date, so I'm 8 months pregnant. And I woke up in the hospital, and my mom was there, of course. And she told me that they had to give me 2 blood transfusions. And I was still kind of, you know, in and out of it. But at some point, my mother left me at the hospital, because remember, I have 2 younger siblings. And she, I guess, had to go and check on my siblings, because remember, it was me who was always checking on them. So she wasn't at the hospital. And I remember waking up, and in the process of me waking up, my daughter's father was there on the phone. And as I'm awakening, I heard him on the phone telling someone else that he loved them. And I remember in tears, I grabbed the phone and I called my mom, and I was asking her why she had left him there with me. You know, why is he here? And I told her what happened, and, you know, she ended up coming back to meet me. And I think I just asked for him not to be there. Like, I didn't want to say, you know, I could not unhear what I had heard. So I stayed a week in the hospital. And I remember my sister, my older sister, and my dad, my biological dad's wife, my stepmom, had come to see me. And I asked for my dad. Where was my dad? And when he did come, I think he told me he had to get permission. Like, he had to ask his wife if it was okay for him to come and see me. And I just remember I cried and cried and cried. And I remember being mad at the Most High. I wanted to know why he left me here with the same people that I was trying to escape from surrounding me in the hospital. The people that contributed to me feeling so hopeless and walking in this cloud of darkness. I was angry. I wasn't grateful. And I'm just being honest with you, because I never, from the time that I put that plan in action, I never once regretted it or asked for him to save me. And so when a lot of people have the conversation about people that have committed suicide, I don't know their last conversation with the Father before they took their last breath. But I know this, that he had mercy on me, that he showed favor on my life, that he remembered what his plan was for me, plans of peace and not of evil, to give me a future and an expectancy, and I never asked for it. His love for me went deeper than a love that I could even explain. the events of that day itself tells a story, because there were times we would sit, our mom would be gone for days at a time, that we wouldn't see her. But this particular day, my mom was there. And had she not been there, I may not have survived that day. But she was there. She checked my blood pressure. She got me the help that I needed. And she was there by my side. He gave me what I needed in that moment. I needed my mother, and he gave that to me. And he spared my life, and I never even asked him to. This lets me know that we have no control as humanity. His will be done despite our efforts. It wasn't my time. No one ever knew that I tried to take my own life. I never told anyone until my daughter graduated high school, and I shared my testimony about how he saved my life, because at that moment he allowed me to see that the enemy not only wanted me gone, he wanted her gone. I can't even begin to tell you the gifting and the anointing that I see over her life. Whatever he has in store for her, I truly believe is even greater than what you see when you look at me, because he never wanted her to exist. He tried to take her out before she ever could breathe life on her own. I know what it's like to be hopeless. I know what it's like to feel like the walls are caving in on you. I know what it feels like to feel like you're so backed into a wall that there's no way that you're gonna fight yourself out of that situation. I know what it's like to feel so alone that it feels easier to just take it all, to just end it all and not keep fighting. But I also know how grace and favor feels. And although I did not appreciate it in that moment, look at me now. There are many people who said I wouldn't make it. Many people who said I would never be anything. Many people that said I would only be a statistic. But he knew the plans he had for me. He didn't care what they said. He stood firm on what he said. September is National Suicide Prevention Month. To anybody who comes across this message and you feel like you have nothing to live for, he has a plan for your life. Plans of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and an expectancy. Keep hanging on. Keep fighting. Live through it. Grow through it. We made it. From that day when I was released from the hospital a week later, I began to be homeschooled because I did want to finish school and eventually go back once I was able. So I was homeschooled. I'm thankful for Miss Webb, my counselor, who helped me get all of that set up so that I would not miss any crucial points of my high school education. But yes, I know what it's like to feel hopeless. But he gave his life for me so that he would spare mine in return. Reach out, check on your loved ones, check on your teenagers, check on your young adults, check on your friends that seem like they have it all together. Depression has no respectable choices. It can hit us all. That cloud of darkness can only be conquered through the light of the Father. And I'll end with saying this. I'm so glad that he stuck to the word he spoke over my life before he even formed me in my mother's womb. He called me and had a special purpose that he wouldn't even let me interfere with. I hope you have enjoyed and learned something that'll help you or someone you love that may be battling depression and suicidal thoughts. Join me next time for The Way You See Me, Heart Healing Ministries.